shamanism is a tradition, is the oldest healing and spiritual transformational tradition on the planet, going back to Stone Age, Paleolithic times when we were hunter-gatherers. And the way I've come to understand it in present time, following the work of anthropologists like Michael Harner and others, who talk about a shamanic state of consciousness. The shamanic journey is an indigenous metaphor for what we would call in psychology an altered state of consciousness. And the shamanic, so the essence of shamanism, to my mind, is the intentional use of altered states of consciousness called shamanic journeys for the purposes of healing and obtaining knowledge or divination. And the methods that shamans use to enter into that altered state of consciousness, the triggers or the catalysts that they use to propel themselves into that, on that journey, there's a wide variety of methods, but the two most common ones, the two most widely used ones are the use of psychoactive plants or plant extracts and herbs, such as ayahuasca in South America or peyote in Mexico and North America, or various other ones, which have become known to psychology and psychiatry as psychedelic drugs or psychoactive drugs and substances, but have this long shamanic tradition of being used in that way. And the other widespread method is rhythmic drumming, rhythmic repetitive drumming, where the beat of the drum serves as a kind of, it's not musical, it doesn't vary the rhythms, it's just a repetitive beat, and people talk about the entrainment of heart rate and brain rhythms through the rhythmic beat to move them into an altered state of consciousness. The shamans themselves, the shamanic traditions themselves might say something like, the drum is the horse, which I use to go on the shamanic journey. So the shamanic practitioner would typically use, start with a drum beat, and then at a certain point they would lie down and hand the drum to their assistant, who would continue beating the drum while the practitioner goes on an inner journey for the purpose of obtaining healing knowledge, which he can then bring back. So divination then literally means obtaining knowledge from the divine world, and the divine world is a classical kind of medieval term for what in indigenous societies or shamanistic societies they might call the spirit world, the world of spirits. Shamanic worldview, the worldview of shamanistic cultures, indigenous cultures, the oldest cultures in the world, and some still exist to this day, is an animistic worldview where everything in nature is animated by living intelligences that they call spirit. That it means trees and rocks and rivers and forests and plants of all kinds, animals of all kinds, human beings, of course. And these spirits can be contacted, and communication can exist between them. And we have that notion, that idea, that we can be in touch with the spirit world, which also includes the world of the dead. In other words, our own ancestors. So shamanic practices are done with the assistance of the spirits of animals and plants. For example, when they use psychoactive plants to go on a journey, they actually, to do the healing, they work with the spirit of that plant. Intention is a selective process by means of which you select what it is that you're going to attend to. And that's why when you enter into any altered state of consciousness, we used to say, we still say, the set and the setting are important. The set is the intention. Or you could also say the question, the issue. And this is in a way obvious when you think about it. but it's important to realize it because it's true of any experience that we're having. You see, you now, you came here with a certain set and intention, expecting to listen to me talking and learn something about what I'm going to talk about, what I'm talking about. And that's your set, and therefore you're attending to me, and that's what's making up your experience. Now, potentially your experience could include a lot of other things. You could, for example, choose to become aware of what's going on behind you, or in the next room, or outside in the garden, or, you know, and the same with me. I have a certain intention and that brought me to this place. So when you're talking about set and setting, internal and talk about the internal and the external always determines what your experience is. So when you go to a psychotherapist or a doctor or a healer or a psychic or a shaman, you're going to have a certain intention that might be the problem you want to work on. The pain you have, or the difficulty you're having with somebody, or some missing knowledge that you need that is disturbing you. And that then enables you to select out where you're going, because and so the intention is like an arrow that you could also say interest, that mobilizes your attentional focus in the direction where you want to go. So, for example, when you're doing a healing regression or a regression into the past, as we're going to do in a little bit, then you would use your intention to focus where you're going to go. Like, I want to look at what happened to me at the age of 6 when in this particular situation I nearly drowned or whatever. And so your intention is then to kind of come to terms with that experience. This is a classic way that therapy and healing takes place. Actually, it's the same in healing. And the Buddhists have a wonderful saying that encapsulates this whole idea, this whole model, which I only discovered after I created the model or evolved the model. And the saying goes like this. If you want to know the past, look to your present conditions. That's a statement of the law of karma. Your present conditions that you're living in is a function of your past. And if you want to know your future, look to your present actions. That's also stating the law of karma, or it's also stating truth, like in the proverb, as you sow, so shall you reap. You know, it's the idea that what you sow now is what you will reap in the future. The bed you make now will be the bed that you sleep in. Those kinds of ideas. Another I'll just mention this in concluding, a kind of a parallel observation that I've made in forms of doing therapy with deceased ancestors, kind of shamanic therapy with deceased ancestors. It actually turns out to be in some ways easier to connect with the soul or the spirit of a deceased ancestor than with the soul or the spirit of an ancestor who is still alive, including parents or grandparents or anybody else. Why is that? Because as long as a person is alive, what dominates your consciousness is your image of them as a personality and their personal image of them as a personality. And so when you do the inner visioning, that's what you get. You know, say mom or dad. Once a person is on the other side in the spirit world and has been dead for some time, the personality stuff is gone, and you get to have soul conversations, which are much deeper and much more revealing and feel much more significant, and people can feel the difference. So again, thank you for your attention.